So there was a preview of Innistrad Midnight Hunt that came out, and it is kind of tiring, right? The fact that we get fucking previews all the time. We've just finished with Historic Horizons Jumpstart, fucking nonsensical name, and we've already got our first lot of spoilers for Innistrad Midnight Hunt. It is exhausting, so I'm just going to acknowledge that right off the bat. But honestly, of all the sets we've had recently, this is probably one of the ones that I'm most excited about. I wasn't that excited. I was like, who gives a fuck about returning to Innistrad? Until I started looking at the previews. Until I started really thinking about how much I loved the last two Innistrad sets. And I mean that. The first Innistrad is one of the greatest sets that Magic has ever seen. From a limited environment, from a flavor perspective, from like eternal format playables, and the standard around it as well. It was fucking banging. And the second time round, I still love it too. I loved all the human themes. I loved all the mutating creatures, the body horror, the eldritch horror, the clue mechanic, like sort of factoring in and being a thematic element to the investigation of the cult goings on in the human societies. Oh my god. It was amazing. I love it. And the fact that we're now going back to Innistrad again, one of my favourite planes, one of my favourite environments to have Magic sets set in, and we're now hopefully moved away from the Eldrazi, because it was a bit tiring having Eldrazi immediately after Battle of Zendikar. That's exciting. So let's talk about the previews that we've had so far. So the first one of them is Triskaidekaphile. Triskaidekaphile? I think I nailed that. It's a 2-mana 1/3, you have no maximum hand size human wizard. Beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 13 cards in your hand, you win the game, and that's 4 mana, draw a card. This is... I don't think it's that powerful. I saw some people getting very, very fucking scared of it, mainly because it stinks of Laboratory Maniac, Thassa's Oracle kind of vibes, right? But I think the 13 cards in hand thing in Commander is doable, but outside of Commander, I think it's going to be very, very hard to do in Modern or Legacy. Maybe there will be weird decks that manage to do this through Life from the Loam, or even the Ren that's coming up, and mulch effects. I guess you could do it with some sort of free discard outlet and treasure hunt to put your whole deck in your hands, play this card, discard it all down, upkeep, trigger, and win. But you can kind of do that with Thassa's Oracle anyway. I think the card is really, really cool thematically and flavor-wise. I don't think it's inherently busted. I don't know why they keep giving human wizards, low-cost human wizards at that as well, these sort of like alternate win con effects, but I'm fine with it. I think there might be a deck, but it's more a meme. I'll try playing it anyway. Next up is a limited card, Enjoying the Dance, a 2-mana, make 2 white human creature tokens in white-green. It's sorcery speed with a 5 cost of 5. The cool thing about this, though, is the world building. I love the perspective here, the momentum of the dance going on, and this guy's reaching out to you. It does... It's kind of obvious to point out, but it feels like you are being invited to a dance. So this art is fucking great. And then there's the stuff behind it. Beyond the invitation, the flames, the wooden construct, this Wicker Man-esque shit. I love it. And this is what is great about Magic on settings like this on Innistrad, where the world building can really evoke theme, flavour, and narrative. And it's something that I know the prof's been tweeting about this a lot, is that the fast-paced breakneck spoiler season every 5 fucking seconds and only having one set per location really ruins that ability to actually take on board the world building that is masterfully crafted into the art direction and the flavor text and just Magic in general. Like Throne of Eldraine, I still think had a very, very interesting and cool world built, but we didn't spend long enough there to really appreciate it. And the same can be said for Kaldheim and similar. So the fact that we've got 2 sets for the new Innistrad, we've got this Midnight Hunt and the Crimson Vow coming up, means that maybe we can take some time to take in the sights and breathe some fresh air. I really hope we get an actual like automaton Wicker Man sort of construct thing out of this as well. Then we've got Play with Fire, have 1 red instant, it does 2 damage to any target. If it's a player dealt damage this way, scry 1. This is a strictly better shock. Now, it's important to know that it's uncommon, so it's not going to see play in like Pauper or anything like that, but don't forget that Lightning Bolt isn't in Historic. This is a card that exists in Historic and is sometimes played in Historic, and this is a strict upgrade. This, plus another card that's coming up, or at least 2 of the other cards coming up, makes me think the power level is still on the upper side of things. I thought that Adventures in the Forgotten Realms was downturning stuff, but it turns out that might just be the typical core set stuff. This card isn't explicitly like uber powerful, but having a strictly better shock is interesting. I mean, we've seen it before with some cards, I'm sure. I don't think this is a new thing, but it does mean the power level of this set is probably up beyond where we normally think it was, because this could have just been shock, right? Thematically, this devil just raising hell with these wards around it, and the flame and the blade in his hand and his body and the way it's lit, all having these like orange highlights. Again, you're not going to notice this. Orange seems to be a key colour in a lot of this artwork too, as this autumn harvest pumpkin thing going on. Then we have Infernal Grasp, a 2-mana instant destroy target creature, you lose 2 life. It is Doomblade, but better. It is a Doomblade. It's not strictly better because obviously losing 2 life is not negligible, but in Commander, I think this is a very, very good include. This is a go for the throat or Victim of Night style include. And in Modern or Legacy or even Historic, no, not Legacy, but Modern or Historic, there are Death Shadow decks that might want a 2-mana kill anything it needs to. There is no requirement, there is no downside, there's no can't kill a demon, can't kill a black creature, or anything like that. It is just absolute, this thing dies, and you lose 2 life, which is an upside for Death Shadow. So again, an upper shift of power level compared to what we saw in Adventures in Forgotten Realms, but nothing too broke. Champion of the Perished is a puntastic variant of Champion of the Parish, but it is a zombie version. So it's exactly the same card, but all instances of human have been replaced with zombie. Now, I think this is awesome. I think this is really cool to come back to Innistrad. What is it, 8-10 years? I don't know how long it's been since we were first on the original Innistrad, because time has no meaning anymore thanks to a global pandemic. But to see us go back and take one of the iconic like creature cards from the human faction and see it reinvented in the zombie faction, especially, isn't just like transposing from one random tribe to another. This is something that can happen to humans on this plane, right? They get infected with zombification and the evil energies of the plane and stuff. Like, it's a cool movement, and I'm hoping we see this on other cards too, even non-creature cards, like old Innistrad cards, things like Thought Scour, things like Declaration Stone, things like Tragic Slip, I don't know. Famous or iconic parts of Innistrad's history zombified, I think is a really cool space to explore, but this might just be a one-off. Consider a world where Opt and Thought Scour did a little fucky-wucky, and this was the baby. This card is really fucking good. This card is more powerful than any of the cards they've shown so far. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say it's better than the Mythic we're about to talk about. This is 1 mana. Look at the top card of your library. You may put it into your graveyard. So for all intents and purposes, beyond actually triggering Surveil payoffs from those sets, this is Surveil 1. Draw a card. Now, some of you might be thinking Thought Scour is better because it mills you 2, so you're trying to put things in the bin. It's better. But no, Thought Scour is mill 2, draw a card. It's draw raw. You don't get any control over what you're drawing. This is more akin to Opt in the fact that you get to look at a card, choose whether you want to draw it or not, but you're then putting things in the graveyard. And if you're new to Magic, let me explain to you, the graveyard is the most broken zone of the game. It's the one that most commonly gets abused to create a deck or a synergy or an effect that is incredibly powerful. And considering so many decks throughout so many formats play blue, care about the graveyard, and might want this instead of Opt now, you can fuel your Snapcaster Mages with it in control. You can fuel the Delirium on your Dragon Rage Channelers. You can fuel your Murktide Regents. You can put things in the bin that you can recur later. You can help into Reanimate. It's got so many applications. And I think this might be the best 1-mana draw spell we've seen printed since perhaps Opt was introduced to Modern, or Thought Scour, even the original Innistrad. This card is real good, and it's going to see a ton of play, which is really interesting at Common. I like to see that happen at Common. But again, it does mean the power level of this set it feels already ticked up a little bit. Before we get to the Mythics, I want to talk about 2 of the lands that were revealed. They really revealed actually like 5 or 10 actual lands, and then some of these alternate art ones too. This Swamp by Dan Mumford, who is someone who I have been loving his use of art in the Secret Lairs and the alternate versions of cards and stuff in Magic for a little while now. I love his stuff. It is fantastic. I've enjoyed his art on the Black Dahlia Murder like album covers and stuff as well. I'm lucky enough to have some sort of limited edition Yu-Gi-Oh image that he did for Yu-Gi-Oh when I went to Paris to play Yu-Gi-Oh that time. Dan Mumford makes some good shit. This one in particular evokes like Resident Evil 4. It's that decrepit, overgrown sort of folksy hillbilly horror element of like a town that once was inhabited. It might still be inhabited, but you don't really want to meet the inhabitants. It is Resident Evil 4 on a Magic card without it being a Resident Evil 4 Secret Lair, and I love it. I absolutely love it. This is my favourite swamp of the new promo full art Black and White lands. And then we have my favourite of the new arts they've shown for the lands. I know this is something that people don't really give too much of a shit about, but how fucking cool is this Plains? The pumpkins, there's more pumpkins going on. There's more orange and yellow hues and stuff like I was saying earlier. I'm going to see it with the alternate art for the Planeswalker we're about to talk about. But there is some sort of pumpkin motif. So I'm hoping for pumpkin-headed fucking scarecrows. I wouldn't even mind if there was a card that was an explicit pop culture reference to Jack Skellington, because I don't find that stuff upsetting in my magical fiction card game. I'm into it. This plane is fucking awesome. And I hope the foiling really brings out the sky. Otherwise, the foil might be a bit dark on this. But I'm going to try and get some foils of this. And then we come to the mythic that they revealed. The Wrenn and 7, a 5-mana Planeswalker, legendary Planeswalker. It's Wrenn. So what we've learned is that Wrenn travels between planes, inhabiting or infecting or becoming attuned to a symbiotic relationship with tree folk on each plane. And Wrenn doesn't really care about what their name is. So we had Wrenn and 6 in Modern Horizons 1, and now we have Wrenn and 7. Before we get onto the mechanics of the card, I really like that this Planeswalker is so weird in what it does, even if I did hate Wrenn and 6 from a mechanical perspective. This idea that they do not care about the thing that they're inhabiting, their host, as it were, is fucking cool and strange. And it opens up some really interesting storytelling later down the line, right? What if Wrenn was to move to Lorwyn and join with Doran, the Siege Tower, and we get Wrenn and 8, the Siege Tower? That'd be a really cool idea. What if they go to Mirrodin and they forge with a metallic tree there, and that metallic tree just looks like a fucking mech? I mean, actually, there weren't any metallic tree folk, so we don't know if she has to have a tree, has to be tree folk, or I don't know. There are some things that could stop her going into Doran or going into the metallic trees of the razor leaf forests or whatever they were called. But it's just some cool stuff we could see in the future. So there were 2 arts for Wrenn and 7, which I'm always going to just default trying to say Wrenn and 6, because that's just been such a thing in Magic for so long, for like the last 2 years, should we say. I really like the full frame art version with this pumpkin with the carving in it. Again, there's no way this isn't going to be more of a theme or play some sort of part in the story or something, right? I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but the pumpkins have to mean something. What I do dislike about these alternate arts being so fucking good is that the original art is also fantastic. It is more creepy and weird in many ways, and it also carries this autumn motif probably stronger than the alternate art does, other than the pumpkin that I love. The problem is that when everything is special, I guess nothing is. And when everything is special, the not so special versions lose a little bit of their allure. And I think it's a shame for artists who didn't get to do the alternate full art promo versions. Because although people have preferences, people tend to go for the promos, right? This is a 5-mana Planeswalker that starts on 5 loyalty at +1s to look at the top 4 cards of your library and put all lands revealed this way into your hand, the rest into your graveyard. So it's basically a mulch. And then 0, put any number of lands from your hand into play. Cool. So this is actually quite an efficient ramp tool if your deck is stacked with lands. -3, make a tree folk whose power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control. So it basically makes you a 3/3 to a 5/5 depending on how hard you've ramped off of mana dorks and stuff. So it does protect itself. And it's -8, it's kind of like Perpetual's Council. You put all permanent cards from your graveyard into your hand, you get an emblem of you have no maximum hand size. It's actually more like Creeping Renaissance, I guess, to make another reference to another Innistrad card. It seems powerful. It seems like it could be pretty good. I think, honestly, because of the existence of Nissa, who shakes the world, 5-mana green Planeswalkers are never really going to look the same again, because nothing's really ever going to come close to Nissa, unless we go into another spiraling fire design power creep nightmare. Card's decent, but honestly, it's not as good as Consider. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. I know I was a bit later coming to these than other people, but I was busy over the weekend on Monday, so I wasn't going to rush to put a video out. I thought I just would because I want to talk about them, because look at them, they've got me excited. Is there a card that's got you excited? Do you think the power level seems to be up, or do you think the power level seems normal, or do you think it seems down? Is Wrenn and 7 reignited your love of 5-mana Planeswalkers? Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.